It's been 30 years since Cameroonians embraced multi-party politics, which was reintroduced in 1990 by Cameroon's President Paul Biya. As the wind of change of democracy, multi-party politics was blowing across the entire continent. At the moment when Cameroon was under one-party system, tribalism, regionalism, nepotism was inexistent. But this time, it was within the lowest pH scale in which Cameroonians were experiencing this system. However, there was a wish that the reintroduction of multi-party politics will help the nation in uniting the nation, in making sure that the different political parties will help develop the nation in their different ideas, and will limit the issue of tribalism, regionalism, nepotism. But instead, we're experiencing tribalism in its highest peak. This time around, it is common for us to see that political parties are being branded as to the different ethnic groups in Cameroon. Today, you will hear the words like, it is an Anglophone party, it is the Bamileke party, it is the British People's Party, it is the party from the Grand North, it is the party from the people of Libya. Where are we coming from with all these ideologies? Multi-party politics seemingly has done more harm than good in Cameroon, as today we will see more of blaming game than bringing solution. When the Anglophone crisis started, one would have expected that all these political parties, opposition to be more precise, will come out as a team and form a force that will help the government in proposing meaningful solution, and equally force the government to take a hard line on resolving this conflict, not by allowing them to say, let them fight. When they get tired, they will keep up the mantle. This is House of Commons with me, JAVIS. Welcome back. A happy Sunday to all those of you watching us online. Happy Sunday to all those of you watching us in Ngokitunja, all those of you watching us in Boyo, all those of you watching us in Utu, in Lebialem, all those of you watching us in Way Village, all those of you watching us in Mamu, Ikona, and those of you watching us in the 8 regions of Cameroon and out of the country. I want to say happy Sunday to you. Today's edition of our program, we are going to look at the opposition party. Is it not time for us to blame the opposition party on the limping nature of peace in Cameroon and stability, in which the parties are instead fighting to overthrow the president rather than fighting to unite the country and bringing common interests on the table? It is now more of party pocket than pocket to party. This is House of Commons. As I introduce you my guest, Sir MUTAGHA, who is the representative of the Cameroon's Renaissance movement, that is the CRM party. He will be talking here on behalf of his party. Sir MUTAGHA, SYLVANUS, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, and thanks to all the televiewers of My Media Prime TV for squeezing time out of their very busy schedules this Sunday to get scotched to their TV sets to watch this prestigious program, House of Commons. Special good morning to my friend Mr. NDIWUM, Emmanuel, that we're on this, we are sharing this platform this afternoon, and also to Dr. Nick and the other panelists that we are sharing this platform. Permit me use this opportunity to greet all the militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, the CRM, and equally greet His Excellency Professor Maurice Kamto, that is watching this program live at Santa Barbara in Yaoundé. Let me greet Professor Alain Foguet, Libu Nisak, and all other militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement who are in the prisons because of the march past that took place last 2020. That was precisely on the 22nd of September, which they said no to the war going on in the Northwest and Southwest region, and for a consensual reform of the electoral system. As you rightly said, it is House of Commons, and we know common sense is not really common.
Thank you very much. Here we also are joined by Pa Suleman, who is representing the Social Democratic Front, that's the SDF. He's been within the party for quite a long time and has experienced the changes within the party. Within the party, standing firm on the issue of federation. The party helped propel multi-party politics in Cameroon. But as it stands now, is the party still the same party we used to know? Pa Suleman, a privilege to have you.
Yeah, you are welcome on board the House of Commons on my media prime this afternoon. We are here to brainstorm ourselves on some of the silent issues affecting our country. And what I will tell you, Mr. JAVIS, is that my party is waxing strongest. My party stands by its ideology of federalism. We believe Cameroon should be united and bilingual. We believe that the corporate existence of Cameroon as one country, one nation, one entity is highly solicited. We believe that the cement will bind us together as Cameroon, now whether Anglophone or Francophone is common nationality, and we should see ourselves from that perspective. That is the stand of the SDF party. We stand for federalism, and we are ready to defend federalism in all its costs.
Thank you very much. And here in the studio, we have the father of modern day confederation, who have been preaching confederation. He is known as a progressive member of the Cameroon's People's Democratic Movement. He has been firm in telling Cameroonians the truth about the ongoing conflict in Cameroon, and also has been firm to tell us that the issue of COVID-19 is what will bring down some of the ministers. And for sure, we witnessed when that prophecy, call it how you may want to tell it, is coming to reality. And today he is also telling us that he sees a different face of Cameroon's politics with the amalgamation of all political parties, and also seeing a future dialogue which the head of state will engineer. Whether it is true or not, time will tell, as time has made us to see that COVID-19 and COVID-Gate has come to fruition. Dr. Nick, it's a privilege to have you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all our listeners. It's a privilege to be with you. And the topic we have today is very exciting, because if we truly understand this topic today, we'll understand how to go about solving the problems of Cameroon. I just hope that I'll have enough time to be able to deal with some principles. When I'll be talking about on principles. I'm not emotional, and I'm talking principles because if we do understand the principles, we will know where the shoe pinches and we'll know how to solve the problems. And at the end of the day, by the time I'm done, you will all understand why 350 political parties in Cameroon must perish. Thank you.
Very rare. And of course, here we also have Mr. NDIWUM EMMANUEL, who is of the civil society, someone who's been so close to the people on the ground, monitoring what the common man is saying on the street and the common man's ideology. NDIWUM EMMANUEL, it's a privilege to have you, and a happy Sunday to you.
Yes,
Isima.
Maisima Bube, it's always a pleasure to be on your platform, JAVIS. Especially when it has to do with rich brains around me like MUTAGHA, Dr. Nick, and Mr. Suleman. You see, Cameroon is going through a very turbulent moment, and we think that collectively the political landscape of Cameroon has to be reviewed, because you know, and you bear with me, that as of now there is no political party in Cameroon. You see, we have associations, junior and senior associations, that have been able to hold Cameroon hostage for a very long time. And I think when we'll be diving into the crux of the matter, we'll be x-raying why I call them associations. Because as of now, actually, we don't have any political party in Cameroon.
Stand together for what you believe, work for what must be done, love each other in all that you do, to all my people are one. That's what the Bible will tell us, and the Quran will tell us, that we must love each other in peace and harmony. Dr. Nick, I'll begin with you. You listen to NDIWUM EMMANUEL. I want you to start the debate, because you have a view that there will be a change within the political system of Cameroon, that you see a future where political parties are going to be merged, a future where there's going to be real and genuine dialogue to resolve the Anglophone crisis. And if we look at the situation in Cameroon, as pertaining to the limping nature of peace and stability, is it not time for this political party opposition to take the blame?
That's right. The answer is yes. Political parties, opposition political parties, have to take the blame for the failure in Cameroon. Of course, we have been condemning the CPDM. It's been normal to just throw rotten bananas at the CPDM. That's granted. But we shouldn't give the impression that opposition political parties should go to sleep and should be given milk and butter to eat. No, they have to take the blame. And for us to understand, there are 350, and you won't call them associations, and he said some of them were senior members and some were junior members. He's right. Now, listen, we had only the CPDM as a political party, so there was monolithism in the nation. Then the SDF took the bull by the horns, and we had the birth of multi-party politics in Cameroon, and all respect goes to the SDF. They paid the price. So we have the CPDM and the SDF, and then in recent times, some people who seem to know what they are doing but don't have the punch kind of like joined that league. We can add the MRC to them. Then there is another junior colleague in there. I know him by name but not the party. Cabral Libi.
PCRN?
Yeah, he's PCRN. I don't really know the PCRN. You can't really feel the weight of the PCRN. But probably if you were to take out Cabral Libi from the PCRN, probably nothing will be left. So, but Cabral Libi is just a young man who talks a lot, but we don't know. He has not been tested. He has not gone through hot water, so we don't know who he is. He's an untested phenomenon. And just because somebody talks smart doesn't mean that he can solve the problems. So that is the first category of political parties that we can look at. Then we can say that there is a group B of political parties that just carve themselves a niche. They don't have a national outreach. They have their vision and ideology is very limited. We can mention the CDU of TAMNJONG, and you know that that's more of a family thing. The husband gives the wife gives the family, and they don't want anyone else. So it is their small business. And then the longest lasting political party, the UPC, has been there, but their vision has not grown, and infighting kind of like just kept them at bay. So when we are looking at the whole, I didn't even mention the NUDP in the north because we don't know what they do. Now, then you have a whole lot of people who just created themselves NGOs and associations, and we don't really know why. I'm sure they kind of like just want to have the name of president and president. So you can now understand, if we were to squeeze down and find out who's on the field doing something, we'll look at these other parties that I mentioned and try to see what they do. But what exactly, if we say they have failed, what have they failed at? Just before you take the microphone from me, let me just remind everybody how a country functions. When we keep that in mind, then we'll be able to put our fingers on where the people are failing. Last time, I was able to demonstrate to everybody that for us to understand how a nation functions, we have to look at a wheel. Take any wheel, and then we divide it into 3 sectors. In one sector, we will write politics. In another sector, we will write economics. In the third sector, we will write development. And then we said that this wheel is driven around, and the rate of acceleration depends on education. The kind of education you have can drive the wheel around either perfectly or not. So we have politics, economics, development driven around by education. And you know that in our country, the education has failed, the economics has failed, the development has failed, and the politics has failed. That's why we are in a mess. And when we finally understand this, we'll see what we have to do to make these things work. And on my fingertips, what are the problems that the politics in the nation are supposed to be solving? What are the problems of Cameroon? Problem number 1, the Anglophone problem. Problem number 2, the youth problems. The youth are not catered for, and that is the next problem that is going to blow up Cameroon. The youth have no future, and we must pay attention to them. Problem number 3, the economics is bad. Problem number 4, there's bad governance. Number 5, the agriculture we have is not sustainable. There's no food security. And I think I mentioned some other thing too. There's poor infrastructure, and then there's lack of infrastructure, and the institutions are not really functioning as they ought to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nick. Those of you who are just joining us, we want to say you can participate on the program, the numbers on your screen, and if you want to be a member of this panel in subsequent edition, you can contact me on the number on your screen. We are open to different diverse views. Mr. Suleman, I come to you. You just listened to Dr. Nick. You heard his analysis about the problems that Cameroonians are facing, that political parties need to handle. But it is sad that we are 5 years, almost 5 years into the Anglophone crisis. We have the problem of insecurity in other regions. We have lots of problems, and we're expecting that this political party opposition, which your party helped champion the reintroduction of multi-party politics, will help the government to resolve some of these problems by pushing for reforms, by taking a hard line and coming together with other opposition parties that let's form a force and get the government, or let's say the CPDM has failed, but let's now form a force and push them to a common ground where they can see things within the common man interest. Is it not, can we not say that your party also needs to be blamed for these, the limping nature of peace in Cameroon?
Mr. JAVIS, I disagree with you in total. The SDF party got nothing to be blamed in this matter. The SDF party does not control the government. The SDF party does not control the army, the gendarme, and the police. Even in the assembly and the assembly and the Senate, the SDF party has no say. All bills are brought into assembly by the ruling CPDM party. No opposition party has ever brought a bill for the amelioration of Cameroon problem and it's accepted. Only the CPDM party bring bills into assembly. So the SDF cannot be blamed for all these nefarious activities taking place in the country. The SDF got no blame to that. It's the ruling CPDM party. If you look at the structure, look, when you go to elections in this country, if you look at the ELECAM, it's all CPDM big wigs. If you look at the Constitutional Council, it's all CPDM big wigs. You see, everything is highly monopolized, centralized, and programmed only for the CPDM to handle. Nothing has been given to the opposition to handle in any way. So the SDF party, with good intention in their mind, they have nothing to contribute to this type of situation we find ourselves in the country, where the CPDM is dancing alone and blowing the pipe alone. The CPDM is the only party that is responsible for the problems that inherent in Cameroon today. From ethnicity, from tribalism, from favoritism, from resentment, bigotry, xenophobia, is all CPDM. CPDM corruption. CPDM is the principal party. Don't blame any other political party. I agree that some political parties during the last presidential election, they forgot about their party manifestos, they forgot their party stand and started to align themselves with the CPDM. That they are giving their votes to the CPDM. You begin to see how
you're talking about the 20G, the G20.
Yes, you begin to see how the incompatibles are becoming compatibles. The unpalatables are becoming palatables. Only because of politics of the stomach, belly policies. Only to come and amass wealth, illegal wealth, for selfish aggrandizement, to satisfy the aim. The CPDM is going to be held responsible in this country for all the wars, all the calamities that have befallen this country. Even the Anglophone problem, when the Grand National Dialogue was called, the SDM made his position clear. Fundi was at the rostrum. Fundi made abundantly clear that he is for federalism. All delegates of the Southwest and Northwest who came for the Grand National Dialogue stood their grounds that they are for federalism. But this CPDM people dumped into the dustbin of history, started promoting the decentralization, appointing regional delegate for decentralization, divisional delegate. I mean, the whole mess encompassing this country today should solely hang menacingly on the neck of the CPDM. CPDM cannot dodge it. They will be brought into the history of this country as one of the worst political parties we have ever seen in the history of Cameroon.
I will come back to you. I want to do a follow up, Mr. Suleman. As far as this is concerned, you said the party, the SDF is not to be blamed, but I want to do some few follow up to that. When we look at the anti-terrorism bill, it was late Bandam, a member of your party, that helped crafted this anti-terrorism bill, which we are saying that is the most draconian anti-terrorism bill in this modern day Cameroon. And when we look at the Anglophone crisis, the letters that were sent by some MPs, the second vice president of the first vice president of the Social Democratic Front in the person of Honorable Joshua Osi signed a petition against, sent to the U.S. Senate and telling them that, hey, what is happening in Cameroon is just those people from the diaspora to be blamed. And I am sure that your party, Nincho, that caused the problem between him and Nincho. If the first vice president, whom by default is sitting in for Chairman Ninjo Fundi, is taking a stand against the same party, are we not saying that the party too still need to be blamed? And even the Bandam anti-terrorism bill.
Let me tell you something. Bandam was just a single member in that committee of SDF. The committee was dominated by the CPDM. The CPDM dominated the committee. Bandam was just a member to showcase.
I'm not talking about it. So remember, let me rephrase. I'm talking about drafting the anti-terrorism.
It was not Bandam alone. It was not Bandam alone who drafted that bill alone. It was a combination of CPDM militants and Bandam from SDF that drafted that bill. It was not the handwork of Bandam alone. And what you should know is that Bandam was brought into that bill to showcase to the world that CPDM is trying to soften positions towards ameliorating laws in this country. Okay. But the Bandam should not be held responsible that he's the one who drafted the bill. Okay, I understand. He was not the one. Yes. Secondly,
let me come out to Joshua. Yes. Joshua Osi, who is the first vice president, chairman of the party, and joined the CPDM parties to say, I accept what the CPDM members, party MPs are doing, and I accept their view, and I signed a petition to the US. Now, are you saying that Joshua Osi, who represents your party, is not in conformity with the fact that CPDM has the same view of...
I agree with you that Joshua Osi blundered, and he saw the response of the military of the party towards him. He saw the ferocious nature of how the party militant responded towards him.
In a way, party blunder. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, they wanted to castigate him. And that was even Ninche went to the extent of passing 8-2 at the design level on him, because people were annoyed that he could not take that stand alone without consulting the party.
And even till now, he has not yet rejoined the signature.
No, but he has apologized.
But he has apologized. Signature means he approved of the action, but apologized for
the last leg meeting analyzed the matter, and the consultation took place between he and Nietzsche, and everything is on track now. The party is united, solidified, and it works its strongest. So I don't think in any way you can say that and also blundered. That was
by default your party blundered.
No, we will not take responsibility. We will not take responsibility.
He's the first guy. Anyway, we're coming back to
we will not take responsibility. He did that united on his own. The party should not be blamed.
Representing the party?
No, sir.
Because there was SDF.
No, sir. Refuse.
We'll be coming back to you.
Refuse.
Sir MUTAGHA, I followed your chairman, Professor Maurice Kamto, in one of the sisters' channels in Cameroon, when he came out as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, and he said his party, in one of the flagship program on the sister channel, that his party will not go in for federation. That was, I'm sure, I don't want to call the name of the program, but he said his party will not go in for federation. And after an outburst, Cameroonian questioning the stand of the CRM party, he later said his party want to go in for federation. Again, when the Anglophone crisis moved to fever pit, he did a tour in the West, in Europe and America, and he said he's going to talk with some of these people and see their problem where they can resolve them as Cameroonians. But as he stands, he refused audience with the separatist group whom he considered them as Cameroonians. And how do you resolve this problem where you don't want to meet with this set of people? And secondly, how do you quickly shift from a non-federation to a federation? Until now, we don't know whether it is a 2-state federation, a 4-state federation, or a 10-state federation. It is a total, Cameroonians see it as a cacophony, and which does are saying that your party still has to be blamed, has to take the responsibility by the horn.
Thank you so much, Mr. JAVIS. One thing I want to say is this. All what you just said sounded like a kind of sophism. it's a calculated, maybe
you need a fact check. I can send a video
argument. It's a calculated argument by some people to say that the CRM hasn't a fixed stand with regards to the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon. But with regards to the topic of today, I think whosoever wants to earn glory also has to share the blame. If the opposition party think they need to be praised for their existence, then they equally have to accept the blame for any failure that occurs in this nation. That's one of the things I want to.
So you are going against, you are disagreeing with Mr. SULEMAN that both parties it's a shared responsibility.
Yes, honestly speaking, if you want to be praised for existing, then you must be ready to be apportioned a certain blame for your existence, because political parties are created to contribute in shaping the political landscape of the country. They are created to contribute to the economic progress of the nation. I mean, in countries where there is real democracy. Now, we are talking of Cameroon, a country where there is dictatorship, because the concept of democracy is a whole illusion in our nation, Cameroon, which we know exactly how the institutions are composed. If you look at Elekam in place, you find that Elekam is built in such a way that it's to work to avoid any other party from ascending to power. So now, if you look at the Constitutional Council, you find that the Constitutional Council is composed in a way that it will only be there to act in favor of the ruling CPDM. So now, if the opposition parties would have to share the blame in the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest region, I want first of all to take us memory lane to 1990, when there was the introduction of multipartism. I want to tell you that in Batibo, where I hail from, we saw militants of the CPDM in that 1990. Some of them, their houses were burnt by anti-CPDM militants. Some of them lost their lives by this atrocity were committed by opposition to the ruling party then. It happened the same in the center and in the south region, where militants of the SDF and sympathizers of the SDF, some of them they lost their shops, some of them lost their business ventures and other like. So today there is no single party that would say no. They should give them they should throw the flowers to them on them and say no. If Cameroon is at this particular level, it is thanks to them, and they don't want to show that the blames. If you can take the glory, you should be ready to accept the blame. Now, talking of the Anglophone crisis, I want to tell you that the CRM has always been of the opinion that the opposition as a whole needs to be united, come to a common front in order to pressurize the system in place in taking powerful strides to end the Anglophone crisis. That is why you find that in 2018, the CRM went in for the presidential elections. The CRM went in for the presidential elections simply because it knew that with the popularity of the party, we could win the elections, and as the president of the republic, the president has the powers to see into the problems of the citizens. I think that was part of the responsibility of a political party that we showed that in that 2018. While going in for the elections results were rigged. The CRM could not stay quiet because it finds that part of the agenda or the plan to seek peace, to solving the Anglophone crisis and the problems of the country was frustrated. What did they do? Some of them took into the street, because I want to tell you that going into the street is, I think, it's a way of expression when other means of expressions have been completely exhausted and there is no tangible outcome. In 2020, the CRM saw that if they had to go in for the twin elections, that's the legislative and municipal elections, it was going to legitimize that force, how do you call it, decentralization, the first concept of decentralization that is put in place by the CPDM in place. You all find it that decentralization has not stopped the war going on in the northwest and southwest region. It was just a camouflage by the CPDM regime, a calculated attempt to tell the world we have come up with this and all the like. So the political parties that went in for elections, knowing that if they didn't participate in that election, because they are going to the parliament, they will not have any say, as my colleague of this, my co-panelist of the SCF said it. They will go to the parliament, they will never table any bills, they will never do anything. You go to the parliament which you know you have no say, and you go there, and then things are going wrong in your country. I think they have to attribute the blames to you too. Now we come back to the Grand National Dialogue. The CRM said that the Grand National Dialogue, without the separatist leaders, without due negotiation prior to the dialogue with the separatist leaders in the diaspora, and even getting those out of the prison, releasing them, they could give them conditional release, take them out, let them be there, try to negotiate, but they didn't do that. So in a nutshell, you find that if the CRM didn't do that, I think everybody will have right to attribute blames to them. So today, the CRM stands blameless, because looking at what is happening presently, you find that, I want to take the case of something that happened of recent, a sex tape something. The first people had to denounce it were the militants of the CRM. You find that some people did not want to rally themselves behind the CRM simply because they said the CRM were the very first person to denounce it. So evil has to be legalized, legitimized, because the CRM was the first political party to
Let me do
so.
a brief follow-up.
So now, coming back to your question, because some people would think that I avoided your question.
Yes, I was going there.
Professor Maurice Kamto went to the diaspora on invitation by the diaspora to come and talk to them. It was the Cameroonian diaspora that invited him to Paris for that meeting. He left from Paris, went to Canada, and from Canada to the United States of America. There are these guys who dress up themselves as the Amazonian activists. They weren't Amazonian activists, they were CPDM militants who dressed up in Amazonian wear, went to dialogue with Professor Maurice Kamto. Professor Maurice Kamto identified them and knew that they weren't Amazonians. And he said, "I cannot dialogue with you people who I know your real leaders. If there are people to dialogue with me, they are not you. I know them." And then secondly, these people, it was a calculated attempt to paint Professor Maurice Kamto as being, let me say, a supporter of the Amazonian movement. You know what the CPDM do? Professor Maurice Kamto could not do such a thing, because we all know that their leaders were in the prison.
Okay.
We know those they brandish in the...
Let me do a quick follow-up to some of the things you've said. You said Cameroon is in a pure dictatorship.
Yeah.
I'm aware, the first question I want to ask in that regard, is it just now that CRM is knowing that Cameroon is a pure dictatorship? If no, why did they go in for the other elections knowing fully well that we are in a dictatorship country? Secondly, you talk about the fact that CPDM members were the ones identifying themselves as Amber people in diaspora, but when we saw hardcore Amber activists denouncing the fact that Professor Maurice Kamto refused to welcome them. Are you by default saying that those advocating for secessionists are CPDM militants camouflaging to destroy the country?
We all know the Amazonian activists. We know the Macbarata. We know the Wilfred Tassang and all the like who are in the Manchu BBC.
Your party have a list of all the members?
We don't have the list, but we know the core members of it. If somebody has to come and dialogue with a man of Professor Maurice Kamto's caliber, is it just any person that will be coming to dialogue with him? Let us be frank. Yes, let us be frank. We need to identify the people. These people, we know them. We identify them. We know that. This, they call him Siseko Ayoktabe is in the prison. We know that these people are in. These are the people we need to dialogue. But as I told you, those who came to meet him for dialogue were never Amazonian activists. They were CPDM. And now coming back to tell you, there's a question you asked.
Yeah, I asked about democracy. You said we are in a pure dictatorship.
It's a pure.
And I'm asking that, is it just today that CRM got to understand that Cameroon is in a pure dictatorship? If no, why did they go in for all the other elections 2018, knowing that you are in a dictatorship country and you are going in for elections? Is it not a waste of resources? And shouldn't your party members prop you guys for wasting their party resources to go in for an election that you know that the system is a dictatorship?
Mr. Javis, if you've never undressed a homosexual in public to show that it's a male that has disguised himself into a female, nobody will accept that it was a male in a female's dress. That's what the CRM did. It undress a homosexual, it undress a dictatorship, and everybody understand that it's a dictatorship. It's not a democracy.
Okay. So it means I will come back to you. Happy Sunday to all panelists. Thank you, Dr. Nick, for always being there as a progressive CPDM member, purposely for nation development by Pekwefo George in Bramenda. This other one read, it says, good afternoon, dear panelists. All these political parties have failed us just because of greed. That is why the ruling party keep on bribing some of their members. Good afternoon, Dr. Nick. And this is coming from Terry Kim from Boya. This one read, it says, happy Sunday to you, nice program. God bless you, Dr. Nick, for staying true to what you stand for. It is coming from Ayok in Ikondo Titi. Happy Sunday to all those of you watching us from Ikondo Titi. I'll come to you before moving back to Doctor. You've listened to the various parties. First of all, the SDF, Mr. SULEMAN says Joshua Osi blundered. That's not a party, but we know that he's the first vice president of SDF and he signed the petition as SDF. Late Mbandam was in charge. We were told that he drafted the anti-terrorism bill, was given to him as a contract as a SDF member. Now you've listened to MUTAGHA blaming the allusion that those of the CPDM party camouflage themselves as AMBA supporters to derail Professor Moise Kamto attempt to meet with the diasporans to chart a way forward to solve Cameroon's problem. Is it not in accordance with all these different views pointing fingers to the topic that these people are responsible, the parties are responsible for Cameroon's limping stability?
Well, all the literature in the question that you started asking went around. They have the right to their opinions. And of course, I have a right to my opinion because the microphone is now with me. You see, like I said from the introductory part of this program, I strongly believe that we don't have any political party in Cameroon as of now. I talked about senior and junior associations. You know, CPDM is the senior association while the other associations are coming. I will tell you that the oldest political association in Cameroon would have been the UPC, I think. Right back, if my history is not failing me, it was about 1937, which started as a movement. At that time, politics was not yet in place in Cameroon. And you'll be surprised that I will tell you that till today, you have the UPC of Kodok, you have the UPC of Manidem, you have the UPC movement again coming back, the Bayebex and the rest. Now, that is not even my problem. I will place my problem squarely on the association that fooled Cameroonians to believe that there was multipartism coming back in full force. And they have been the reason, they have been the ones that have babysitted Mr. Abia and his CPDM association to have stayed this long in power, which is SDF. You see, I have a problem with this political association. Why? This is the only association in Cameroon that has successfully... I am using the word association, okay. Don't force it into my mouth. This is the only political association in Cameroon that has successfully liquidated all its top-ranking officials. And because of this lack of wisdom in managing their internal affairs, right from the first Secretary General right down to Elizabeth TAMNJONG, you have seen how the association has died down completely. Even those who are still singing songs that there is something called SDF, I know SDF was buried. It was long gone. We all assisted in their wake keep. How can you imagine that anybody who came up in this party with a strong voice representing the people as Wiba did was distanced from the party? Now, people came in like the OC. We have never heard him spoken at the assembly. He has never held one minister to task at the assembly, and I stand to be corrected today. You only hear him come out to join the Elder Association, which is the CPDM, to sign a petition against his people, of which we all know that...
He said he has apologized.
OC, no, I have the microphone. We all know that OC cannot go to Indian. That one is not debatable. He sits here in Douala. He rallies with the CPDM Senior Association. He signs petition against his people. That's one. When Wiba stood up at the assembly, after visiting 5 ministers, and you know the response that were given to Wiba from these 5 ministers, some asked him, you people voted to join the association. Some even told him that if you rise, we shall quench you down. Some even asked him, what will you do if we decide not to look into the problem? This was a prophet in that association that foresaw the danger that Cameroon was to plunge into. But you know what happened? Starting from the chairman of this association, right down to the grassroots militant, they vomited. They vomited him. Some even sit in the diaspora today hiding behind the code of civil society and calling him a coward, that he was a coward, of which they are the real cowards living today. And you discover that of late, just a few days ago, this same OC said the COVID-19 vaccine was supposed to be made obligatory. This is somebody who is supposed to be a representative of the people. Yet at the assembly, he puts no minister to task. He only comes to you people, the journalists, take the microphone and speaks whatsoever pleases him. And then with the opposition has failed. Let me now answer your question squarely. The opposition has failed 100%. I say it and I weigh my words 100%. Because if you ask an opposition association in Cameroon today, who are you opposing? They will quickly turn to another opposition association. They will not look at the real enemy, which is at A2D. Many of them even come in because, you know, we have a lot of frustrated businessmen in our country that have turned around to take politics to be a job. And they come in because they want to gain some crumbs. The only association that came up and animated the political scene for a while, that some people really took into in politics, was CRM, but they ended up failing because you don't take a dictator out of power with words. You don't sing songs.
They said they went on the street on September 22. They were arrested, and
in 2019,
some were arrested.
Listen, I'll give you 1 minute.
Thank you, sir.
You see,
Are you the moderator?
Yeah, out of my time. I time myself. You see, these people animated the political scene in Cameroon, yes, but they failed because their leader did not have a clear vision. If you read it on paper, it will be a God-sent political party that Cameroon could have ever had. That one, I should be very honest. But if you go to the practicalities of it and how they went about their political issues on the field, Mr. JAVIS, it's all a scam. Because one, A says this and B says that. And at the end of it all, they are not in unanimity with what the objective. I took time to read through the MRC project. Now, when you come back to look at others like PCRN, those are CPDM satellite association. We should have the courage to say it. Yes, they are not working. They don't have any objective. None of them are thinking of taking over A2D. They are thinking of taking their having a green light to lobby with the ministers, have contracts, and then build their mansions. And before I give back the microphone to you, it is worth noting that most of these opposition associations, once they are there, they start defending their senior association. You see the case of UPC, openly defending the head of state. And then who are you opposing? You cannot be opposing me while eating with me. You cannot be opposing me while I dictate what you say and what you don't say. So, in summary,
okay,
they have failed. And I think they should take responsibility and apologize to Cameroonians that no, we failed because we went into this battle without being fully mature. But at this time, I think we are going to unite, even though I think that word unite it's far-fetched from with them, because all of them, the opposition, their disunity is more than the one between the senior association and that of the Cameroonian.
Thank you. Sir MUTAGHA, you have time to react, but first, I want us to go to Jang Dennis. When we come back from Jang Dennis, we'll come to Dr. Nick. We'll move around for reaction so that we can have a unanimous contribution. Let's get to the first excerpt of Jang Dennis as far as this is concerned.
Talking on the issue of if the opposition political parties are responsible for the recent insecurity and the instability of the nature of our country today, I would say, I think that is an overstatement. The opposition doesn't control any institution. The role of the opposition is just there to put pressure on the government, be the mouth of the voiceless, and carry out demonstrations to put the government to action. And if the opposition discover that there are areas where they can add their voice, and those who manage the institutions of the country refuse to listen to the opposition, I don't think the opposition has any other means than just to speak. I don't know under what context are you really referring to, but I will know that of recent our country has been plagued with a lot of insecurity, especially the crisis in the northwest and in the southwest. I can tell you that the opposition, if the government was a government that listens to the opposition, I don't think this crisis would have been where we find ourselves today. I can believe that when this crisis started, the opposition came out in their numbers. We know of so many political parties and political leaders who came out strong to call on the attention of the regime as far as this crisis is concerned. We all know how they all ended. I want to begin with my former chairman of the party of PAP, Justice Ayapol, who condemned the actions of the government in retaliation to the Anglophone crisis, because they saw that this crisis, if it is not properly handled, it will escalate to violence. And instead of the government listening to such people, they rather saw them as enemies of the country rather than listening to their proposals. Another member of parliament, who is an opposition leader, Honorable Weber, came out strong and warned that issue should be brought into the parliament, because it has been an issue that has to be tackled tactfully, politically. And we all saw that a deaf ear was given to him until to a point where his life was threatened and he had to quit the country for the fear of his own security. Even though we have other political opposition leaders, parliamentarians who even marched, they staged a march, some even interrupted sessions in the parliament, and even other leaders met with the president and warned. I think John Fundi, one time he said he met with President Paul Biya, and called his attention, but everything went on deaf ears. And recently we saw the manifestations of other political parties like the CRM, who have been on many occasions trying to call on their attention, because that is the only weapon. The opposition does not control any institution. They don't control institutions. They are not the president, they are not the president, they are not the ministers. Their own role is only to mount prayer. They are not decision makers. I mean, the only way is to either to organize press conferences, rallies, demonstrations, and come out on the media and speak that about the opposition. Unfortunately, even those areas where we speak, it's not even easy for the opposition to even air out their voice. How many demonstrations can we carry out to demonstrate something peacefully without being harassed or arrested? We know of a political party that most of the militants and even just some of their top leaders, some of them are still.
Thank you very much, Jang Dennis. That is the current chair of the PAP party, the Populars Action Party. He said, Dr. Nick, you listened to him keenly. He talked about the fact that the opposition party don't own institutions. Your reaction?
I was listening to him keenly because you warned me, because I was going to react to what he said. And what I might say is this. When you listen to him, you can get carried away. I told you that I came onto this platform to talk principles, not emotions. And when I was classifying my parties, I didn't even mention his party. You see, they have a very small vision. And if you listen to him very carefully, you would have realized that they have a very small vision. And as he was going along, he hinged on the quotes of the SDF to have some relevance, which is what we're asking them to do. All of you come around the SDF and have some relevance. And then he said that they usually gather around and make noise. That's not it. Now, for us to so let's not waste time on that. Now, listen. I myself, I was very confused as to what politics is all about. And in December of 2012, was around probably the 6th or 8th of December, His Eminence of Blessed Memory Christian Cardinal Tumi taught me what politics is and how we are supposed to go about it. So that's why when you see me intervening in politics, I'm not into this blah, 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 blah. I know what I want, and we go for it. Now, this is how it works. What is politics? Politics has got two parts to it. The Cardinal said, when you are in politics, you seek two things. Number one, and that's what he was saying senators should do, make sure that the right policies are put in place. Make sure that the right policies are put in place. That's the first thing, part A. Then what is part B? Part B is make sure that those policies are implemented to the letter, un point, un trait. That is the job. Now, if somebody is there and is not doing the job properly, you kick him out, come in and do it. That is it. If you come in and you don't do exactly what the Cardinal said, you are wasting the people's time. And you will notice that most of these political parties, they're just beating around the bush looking for something to eat. And that's not where the issues are. And there is a quality of people who have got to go into politics. Besides being well schooled in issues and principles, the Cardinal said, people in politics must be God-fearing. But you know that in Cameroon and most African countries, we understand that politics is a dirty game because you have a lot of people who are there. When you don't stand for the truth, of course, it's dirty. We have a lot of people just running around in circles looking for something to eat. That's why we call it belly politics, and it's not grounded on principles. So the Cardinal said that people who go into politics must be God-fearing. It's very important. Be they Muslims or Christians, they must be God-fearing. If they are not God-fearing, forget it. Then, what did he say again? And said, do unto others as you will have it done unto you. When you see people kicking others around like in Northwest and Southwest, it's because they've not put themselves in the shoes where they feel the pain of those people they are kicking around. If you were to, at any material moment, think of that principle, Cameroon will be the best country. Always do unto others as you would like it done unto you. 3, be the salt and the light of the earth. It's very, very important. These are some of the principles that the Cardinal said we should follow, and I was repeating it so that we know what we are aligning on. Now, that said, let me come back and tell you what are the few reasons why all the political parties have failed to be relevant. Greed is what is the first reason. They are all greedy. And then there's this thing called party discipline. Party discipline is good. It's a double-edged sword. It's good but bad. You know, you have to have wisdom. And then you know, because when the SDF started as the only credible political party, it was nationwide. But as more political parties started to come up, they started to have this tribal tendency. They had to hinge around some people. So you started to have this tribal color strongly related with it, and that's why you have a lot of hate speech that has grown with the number of parties. And there's a complete lack of strategy. If you want to do something, the door is shut. What are you going to do to enter that house through the window? So there's a complete lack of strategy. They don't know. So sometimes, they don't understand that. People just keep pushing. It's about strategy. You can get what you want through strategy. You can go and lie in bed with your enemy as a strategy. So it's a lack of strategy. And this Article 8.2 killed the nation. Now, that said, to tell you about strategy, you see, when I was joining the CPDM, it was not because I love them. It's strategy. And what's my strategy? Change the nation. What do you want? Is to change the nation. It's change.
You want to be inside to change the system.
Yes, you cannot hijack a plane if you are not in the plane. It's simple. So you don't say, I love. It's not about love or like. No, it's about, and a candle You cannot say that I will not go into the CPDM because it's dirty. Yeah, man. You cannot say that I will not go into the CPDM because it's dirty. After all, a Christian is meant for is the light bearer. And you light a candle and take it into darkness. Christians don't fear darkness. So you go there knowing who you are. It's that. So what I'm saying is, we have to, that's why I was saying that we have to work on principles. And I respect the SDF very much, but I would say that the failure of the opposition parties, forget about the other one, their associations. The failure of opposition in Cameroon is due to the SDF. It's due to the lack of wisdom by the SDF. If SDF, so
you are adding your voice.
Yes. If, see, forget about this MRC. Forget about them. Blame they don't exist. Blame the SDF because the SDF made mistakes. Then they came up. It's lack of wisdom by the SDF. That, like NDIWUM was saying, your Article 8.2 was the greatest error that you ever made, because you keep chasing other people away and giving the impression that you are clean. No. We are all sin and falling short of the glory of God. So I don't want to go into it, but there are many evils that you people did, and one of the greatest evil that you people made, and I wept for 1 week, was when you went for those elections in Bamenda to choose your party, this thing, and you frauded at the elections. Once you did that, you killed yourself.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Let's get your reaction, Mr. Suleman. After Suleman, you react.
Yes, honestly speaking, I will have to react.
Oh, you want to react before Suleman speaks? Because after Suleman, you will react.
Let him talk.
Yes, after Suleman, you will react. Then they will go back again. So let's get your reaction.
Let me tell you something. The SDF party is the most organized and structured party in this country. The SDF party has a very responsible and constitution that everybody is aware is power to the people from the grassroots.
Equal opportunity.
And equal opportunity. That's the SDF for you. Let me tell you something. I'm shocked and I'm shocked to hear somebody telling me that the SDF used to use Article 8.2 to drive away people from party. Let me tell you something. When the SDF was created in 1990, 26th of May 1990, in Bamenda, some people lost their life. You see, people like Fundi, who was the chairman. SDF has got 4 vice chairmen. You have SULEMAN, you have Dr. Luma, you have my daddy Sadu, and then you have O.C. Joshua. You have 4 secretary generals too. You have Dr. Siga Sanga, you have Michael Ndobegan, you have Dr. Tazocha Songani, and now you have Elizabeth TAMNJONG. Let me tell you, anybody who left the SDF or Article 8.2 was passed on him, those are people who wanted to seize power from the party. The people never wanted them to rule. And they wanted us to join the government because they were ambitious. They want political appointments.
But the party say power to the people now.
Yes.
The party say power to the people. Yes,
that was what you see, because the SDF is the only party that hold NEC meeting every month. And they call for convention. And when they call that, that's the highest policy making body in the party. The NEC is the second. When they go for convention, they take drastic decision. They take drastic decision in order to stabilize the party. So all those people who left the party were either politically ambitious to take position, the whole position, or the party to join the government so that they can appoint ministers and one way or the other. So they decided to back out.
Let me ask you now my question.
Yes.
You're reacting to Dr. Nick.
Yes.
A while ago, when you talked about the issue of that CPDM should take the blame.
Yes.
The Constitutional Council has members of SDF.
Yes. Only one.
The ELECAM has members of SDF.
1, 2.
And if we look at the parliament has, we have 5 SDF MPs.
Yes.
We'll come to the Senate. No, let me come. We'll come to the Senate. You come to the Senate, you have senators of Social Democratic Front. And now you are saying that it is CPDM that has to take the blame of the limping nature of peace in Cameroon. And when we see what happened in October 2016 and in November, when Honorable Wilbur came and talked about this conflict, the party was seemingly docile, and the party paid little attention to his warning that there is something going out there in West Cameroon, that it is something that will bring down Cameroon. Instead, the party did not stand with what he was saying. And secondly, when he came back in 2017, when he said, Mr. Speaker, I've come here for the same purpose, who is that who ordered for my arrest. We were expecting, many were expecting that the party will come out as a force and send strong warning to the government that allow our MPs to speak. The only motion we saw was when SDF joined the chorus by singing, "Oh, they go kill we tire." Since then, we've not had any meaningful reaction from the SDF to join the other opposition party saying that, okay, let's form a coalition of opposition party in probing the government to resolve the Anglophone crisis.
Let me tell you something.
One, is it not greed, as Dr. Nick is saying?
The SDF still respect Wiba, hold him in high esteem. The SDF has never relegated Wiba to the background. The SDF has never made any derogatory remarks against Wiba. The SDF stands for Wiba, and the military of the party were strongly behind Wiba. Nobody was against Wiba. If people are giving contrary opinion here, that is your opinion. The party has never gone against Wiba. We stood by Wiba because he was very courageous, he was very brave to stand before the assembly and make that strong point that to defend the Anglophone crisis. So I think if anybody is saying anything here, that's his opinion. But I know that as far as Wiba is concerned, we stand for Wiba. Secondly, Dr. Nick said the late prelate Cardinal said politics, we should go, people should take right, people should go into politics and take right decisions. The CPDM will never ever take good policies.
No, then you should be doing your own
because first we are minorities. First of all, we are minorities.
So what are you doing there?
Excuse me. Let me say, we are minorities in the assembly. We are minority in the
But
assembly.
you say you cheated in your own elections.
Like who?
In the Congress Hall in Bamenda.
Tell
me about Asabnu.
Who?
Tell me about Asabnu.
What happened to Asabnu?
You know.
No, you tell me what happened to Asabnu.
The elections, see, listeners, this SDF about 10 years ago, 12 years ago,
yes,
you had elections in the CPDM in that Congress Hall
yes,
in Bamenda to renew your structures.
Exactly.
Those elections were truncated, they were fake.
In favor of whom?
You know what you did. Even changing the chairman was wishy-washy. And then when it came to the communication secretary, Asabnu was competing against one senator now like that. And you twisted the things around. And your transparent boxes never spoke the truth.
Okay, thank you.
By that one, you damage elections in the country.
Dr. Nick,
preaching now and
with due respect, I have a due respect and I have some respect for you. But if you're here because you want to relegate the SDF to the background or make some sarcastic statement to tarnish the image of SDF, the SDF, we have conducted successful congresses of the SDF with no problem, with no difficulty.
We'll come back to you.
I
want you to react. You want a while ago. You want to react to what Dr. Nick said concerning your party. And secondly, when we look at the trend of events now, opposition parties are more focused on, their activities than looking a common ground, coming together and saying, okay, let's have a coalition of opposition party to write a strong motion. We have not seen a letter from opposition party about Anglophone crisis to the United Nations, and they have the mandate to the people. It is these parties that have the mandate to the people because we elected their officials. We have not had one concerted letter signed by SDF, signed by CPD, all the opposition, like a memorandum, as we are a consortium of opposition party.
Let me say something with on what Dr. Nick is doing here on this platform. It is the oldest form of witchcraft. The oldest form of witchcraft. And you know how this form of witchcraft occurs? To conceal a well-proven and documented truth on evil, we have to accuse the righteous that they are evil too. And that is what Dr. Nick is doing. I said it's the oldest form of witchcraft. It is not just today. So you see, to conceal all the evil things that are happening within the CPDM and all the like, he will attack the SDF, attack the CRM, just in order to consolidate his...
The issue is that truth?
What truth is in what he's saying? What
but the womb has complimented the fact that...
I wouldn't want to sign the womb because I think the womb, maybe, I don't know what he ate this morning or what he drank this morning before coming to the platform, but like I said, what Dr. Nick is doing, he's doing in his right frame of mind. It is the oldest form of witchcraft. He knows for certain, in as much as I said that the opposition parties have some portion of blame. If you have just 5 on 100, I think it's insignificant for the whole blame to be thrown on you. We know exactly what happens in this nation. Like I said what I can say the opposition has not done is that the opposition has been unable to come to a common front. And even if they come to a common front, there is still another problem, which is the electoral system in place. The electoral system in place will never permit the opposition party maybe to break through. And then secondly, you know exactly how this system is, I think, continue to call it a dictatorship. Because there is never any manifestation that will be carried out by the opposition party, especially the genuine opposition parties, that you see the regime in place permitting them to do that manifestation. Look at what you just said, that you've not seen any letter so far, any communique signed by a joint communique. Let's take, for example, the last sitting in Yaoundé of 9 political parties of the opposition that sat in a private, let me say, in the headquarters of a political party, to discuss on the prospects of drafting a bill for the consensual reform of the electoral system. What happened? They sent police officers, gendarmes, and all the like, went and brutalized them. Whereas, if you see what's happening here, stand up for Cameroon. Let me not start a name. How many times do they grant press conferences? How many times do they grant press conferences in Douala, and you hardly see any police officer going there to brutalize them?
You talked about the fact that the opposition party rallied and they were chased by police in Yaoundé.
In Yaoundé.
Now this is it. We have Zoom. We have different online platforms. Can these opposition members make use of modern day technology and have their meetings in the comfort of their houses without being interrupted, and send a joint communique and sign? Do you need to meet Fachem or Fachem before?
Honestly speaking, Mr. JAVIS, you still go in line with what I'm saying. It means you legitimize the concept of dictatorship. Because in a free democracy, if political parties cannot meet for fear that
you just said we don't have democracy, so you have to look for other means to fight the democracy. I am happy. The technology.
I'm happy that what you brought up corroborated it, but you know exactly how it is done. When the Anglophone crisis started in Cameroon, what happened to English-speaking regions? Was internet not cut off?
But we have internet.
We have internet. I just want to take example. I just want to take example. Now, we know that there is Zoom, there is all other things that exist, but there must be the first meetings for people to sit down to arrive at a common platform. That's exactly what happened. Now, secondly, another thing which I want to say is that I told you that the opposition has been doing a tremendous job in exposing that false concept of democracy in this country, that there isn't any democracy. It is a strategy. Dr. Nick talked of a strategy. That is a strategy of the opposition to expose the evils that are happening in this nation, that there is no democracy. And then thirdly, I want to still say something. The opposition cannot be blamed for anything that has happened in this nation, simply because there is no democracy in this nation. What is
you are going for elections. You are wasting your party resources.
Let me explain to you. I say it's a strategy to prove to the entire world that there's no democracy in this nation. It's a strategy. Let me tell you something. The reason why opposition parties cannot emerge in this nation, first, the issue of bad electoral laws, and then the issue of social injustice. Selfishness. Not forget about selfishness. That selfishness exists because of social injustice. The system in place has decided to confiscate the wealth of the nation, and then they dish out to all those who are their followers. If you are not, imagine, if you are of the opposition party and you are a business magnate, what happens? They will do everything possible to freeze your business. They will do everything possible. You want me to cite names? I wouldn't cite names here because I think we want to protect the privacies of those people. If you are of the opposition, Dr. Niku is here. Do you know why he joined the CPDM? He's a businessman to protect to protect his business. Dr. Nick joined the CPDM to protect his business.
He has been factual to say that the natural dialogue failed. He has been factual to say, to criticize
this man. Let's go into citing some of the evil things that are done by the CPDM. Has Dr. Nick ever condemned the brutality of the police officers and other like on ordinary citizens? Has Dr. Nick ever called, said no, we want Bia, who is his president of the party, to call for ceasefire in the Northwest?
That's why he's saying that
if Dr. Nick,
dialogue has failed.
If Dr. Nick has ever said so, now if it has to do with, these people, they too much talking doesn't frighten them. If it is going into the street, if Dr. Nick is, let me say, a free-minded CPDM, when opposition parties rally in the street to pressurize the regime in place to call for ceasefire on the war going on in the northwest and southwest region, I want to see Dr. Nick in the street with them.
Thank you.
And Dr. Nick ran away from the SDF because he was a former SDF.
Yes, he was the SDF. Yes, he could not make out. He could not make out. Dr. Nick could not make out.
He ran from SDF because when he was supporting SDF, the pressure on his clinic. He was having a clinic in Bamenda.
In Bamenda. You understand?
Lie. That's not true.
Anyway, you people are now using the oldest form of witchcraft.
No.
Dr. Nick.
Nobody should believe
you are using now the oldest form of witchcraft.
I've never had any pressure from government.
Okay, Doctor, we have time to react on that. Personally, EMMANUEL, you follow the discussion, your reaction.
You see, my first reaction...
sorry, before you react, I want to ask you this question. As I asked him, we have not seen one communique, joint communique, signed by all opposition parties about the Anglophone crisis to competent bodies, because we know that they are legally, they are legal in Cameroon, and they are recognized, and they are the only voice that can speak on behalf of Cameroonians to international body if the government has failed.
No, the JAVIS... They cannot do that. They cannot do that because, like I told you, some of them are eating with the regime in place. And so they are doing business with them. So should they dare send out their voice, they will be disconnected from the CBDM association or whatsoever. But there's something very important I want to tell you. I want to tell Mr. MUTAGHA that before I came here this morning, I ate fufu corn. Oh. You asked whether you were wondering what I ate. I ate fufu corn. Okay. And I want to remind you people of the failed opposition that opposition needs no electoral code to join with the other oppositions to put hands together. I repeat, if CRN, PCRN, and SDF were to put hands together, they don't need any electoral code. So we should not base on the fact that bad government, bad regime that do not have electoral code is not permitting you people to unite together. So that there is also a failed logic. To come together as opposition and form one block, you people do not need an electoral code to do so.
And need that physical meeting.
Yes, but a physical meeting is it's possible. You see that what I indexed SDF earlier, and Mr. Suleman was saying, you know, SGF takes 80% of the failure of the opposition. Oh, I should say 85. Just imagine that one person who used to be very outspoken and we are looking up to him from the day he was put into the Constitutional Council, he became mute till date. He has never offered a word. I mean a word. Look at their national secretary who wanted to go in for the twin election, parliamentary election. He comes from Libya, knowing fully well that Libya has been ungovernable. That's another definition of witchcraft. Because he knew very well that he can never succeed. And it is only after he failed that he came to the television and said, oh, the CBDM with bad laws. When you were going in for the election, you knew very well that Libya could not host any election with the almighty Field Marshal there. So SDF should take the cap of the failure, put it on the head squarely and be comfortable with it. I am not here to please anybody for whatsoever. I am here to say what I am talking from experience, because I came from an SDF family. Let me unveil it now. And I saw SDF failing from one point to another. I told you, I'm sure that you have been courageous enough to read the memoir of late Professor Tazweta Asongwanyi, of which I used to follow him closely. Some of your party members says I am taking his memoir as a gospel, and I will keep taking it as a gospel. He was writing like somebody who had felt the pains of the liquidation of its own member by the SDF. And I think, I don't even know why Mr. Dr. Nif left there, but if I were to read the actions of SDF from a distance, I think he must have been pushed to a frustrated corner by the so-called article of the SDF that says anybody who stands to speak vocal or to be vocal in this party should be sent, should be cutted away. And that's exactly what I want to remind you, that after the speech of Wiba at the assembly, the SDF held an emergency meeting to distance themselves, and these were the words of your chairman, and I quote, "The moment he said he was the warrior of Saw, he was no longer my parliamentarian." These were his words. They are verifiable. You can go back to the machines and prove me the contrary. Because you say it is that we were saying things here that we were just framing them up against SDF. I am repeating that these were the words of the chairman. I don't want to go to what other parliamentarians said. And you see that with the departure of
8.2.
Yes, with the departure of Wiba, you people are today dancing there with 5 parliamentarians. You have no voice. You cannot speak. You know that if you speak, maybe tomorrow you will go down to 0 parliamentarian. Of course, you have to go down to 0 parliamentarian if you don't change your stand. So SDF, to me, personally, is dead and gone. It's a foregone story. We need to be talking about MRC that came out with policies.
Doctor,
but
this is not...
No, listen. MRC came out with very good policies. But over time, very short time and short space, they are declining at a very sharp degree. Why? Because just like the SDF was dancing and waxing strong because they were still having the slogan, power to the people. And from the day SDF took the slogan, power to the people, to power to the party, they failed, they lost it all. MRC came out and it was very strong. But the fact that they refused to go to an election on the basis that there is no democracy, of which they were in that election in 2018, made many people, and you saw how their cadres, as they call it, started leaving the party. Those who went there for their stomach, for their bellies, to have positions, they were easily auto-identified and decided to leave the party and start creating other parties. You see that if a party is not well organized, JAVIS, what happens is that they start disintegrating themselves. Okay. Everybody wants to go apart and form a party. So no, we should not be here to please whosoever. I repeat, before giving me back the microphone, SDF should carry 85% of the failure of opposition in Cameroon, because they have been the one babysitting Mr. Biya and the CPDM regime for all this while.
Thank you. This is coming from one of our members who always participate on the program, Ms. Angalim. He says opposition parties must take some blame for the limping peace. First, the SDF founded to solve the Southern Cameroon's problem, moved away and concentrated on national issues, which is put West Cameroon on the back burner. Second, the MRC has refused to acknowledge the root causes of the Southern Cameroons, which is the violation of the right of self-determination. We'll take on the last excerpt from PAP, Jan Dennis, then we'll come and react to that. I'm sure that last excerpt is very brief. We'll take on it and we'll come and react to that.
All right. I think we have over-elaborated on this issue, on the multiple crises affecting the country today. We need to see the way forward. I think it is high time that the government of Mr. Biya starts seeing opposition as solutions to problems than enemy to the country. Those in government are not patriotic as those of the opposition. On the contrary, someone who sees an error and is able to detect that error and calls your attention is far better than someone who sees that error and keeps quiet just because he's afraid of exposing it, because maybe of the benefits that accompany his position and he can't be able to say anything. It is dangerous. So you should rather appreciate those who are able to criticize, rebuke and seek to give solution than those who keep quiet, and even if things are getting wrong, they keep on giving you clapping hands on you. Those are the most dangerous people to the peace and stability of our country, because if some of us don't expose, we don't speak, how will some people listen? So I want to call on the attention of the government that it is high time they start seeing the opposition. Mr. Biya should carry on intensive consultation with all stakeholders, including everybody on board, not only the opposition, even all the stakeholders. And I also want to call on you people of the press, the civil society, non-governmental organization, everybody, the population. You people, everybody has a role. I don't think it's only the opposition where all blames should be levied on, because some people have the conception that everything they look at opposition does not have any institution at their disposal. The only way they could speak is just to sensitize, mount pressure on the regime, and what we have been doing for them to take action. I think it's like the populations to start believing in themselves and take over their responsibility. The opposition have done more than enough. We have organized manifestations, we have organized press conferences, we even boycotted elections.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Javis. Please ask Dr. Nick when the dialogue will take place, because the rate of killings in the northwest and southwest these days is horrible. My 4 neighbors were killed yesterday for no just cause. Is it a crime to be an Anglophone? It's coming from someone who is anonymous sender. This other one reads, it says, happy Sunday to you all in the studio. Great program, great analysts from all the panelists. I want to also say that all the parties have failed, but the CPDM is also the major failure. Thank you very much. We're coming back to Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick, I want us to look at the way forward now.
Yeah, the way forward. Just to answer that gentleman who just spoke. Yeah, it's just unfortunate, but what is the way out? We are going to have, watch my lips, we are going to have a true and inclusive dialogue. There will be reconciliation, and there will be unity in the nation. And you know, it is underlined by a confederation. Now, that said, it's just unfortunate that people are dying. It's very unfortunate, and may the souls of the faithful departed rest in perfect peace. Now, if I'm always on TV, it's because I'm looking, for these solutions. I mean, we are also concerned about it. It's very important that all these things should stop. What we need in Cameroon is not democracy. Democracy is not working in Cameroon, not working in many African states because of poverty and the mindset. Democracy is not working. What we need in Cameroon, we need an enlightened, benevolent despot. An enlightened, benevolent despot is somebody who listens and knows what his people wants, and has good leadership skills, and leads the people like Moses, like Aaron, like Joshua, like Daniel in the right direction. It's not about who, the majority is not always right, but if you have 1, 2, 3 people who have the right ideas for the community and lead them in and get everybody on the right path, will come out of this mess. That's what we need, not this 350 whatever. And that said, when coming to the studio, I was just thinking, I mean, a couple of you have said a couple of things that are right. The onus is on the CPDM to get the change in the country. You see, when Cameroon was playing against Argentina at the World Cup in 1990, Cameroon won that match even when they were down by a few players. They won the match because of the style of play. The style of play was not scientific, and therefore those Argentinians were lost, and that's why they won. Back again to an ordinary football match. You see, there are 22 persons on the pitch playing. The person who has the ball at that time drives the traffic towards him, and where he sends the ball to, the traffic goes there. So it is about that ball control, or the control of ideologies or whatever, that makes things happen. And it is the CPDM that has the ball. The way the CPDM kicks the ball determines what happens to the other political parties. So on that score, they are right. And therefore, if the opposition has been failing, it's because the CPDM has been playing the ball in a very funny style. The principles have not been very clearly demarcated. The goalpost keeps being shifted forward, back, center, and so on. So they are confused. And then they have realized that they should just go for food. And they're so very confused. So now, I'm saying, watch my lips, it is again the CPDM that will correct what is happening. When I'm saying that 350 political parties are going to die, it is when the CPDM will change the strategy of playing. Because now, if you notice all of them, they only sing blame games. They have no ideas. They can't solve any problem. So when the CPDM starts, when the CPDM starts being progressive, that means solving the problems, even seeing problems and talking about the problems and solving them up front, then they have no reason to exist. You understand? Because now they blame. But if the CPDM identifies a problem, gives the solution, and solves it, and keeps, driving the train forward, they are out. That's the problem. And based on that, in the days ahead, after the dialogue, after the reconciliation, and after the unity, all these 350 political parties, including the present CPDM, will die. And then a progressive CPDM will resurrect. And from that resurrection, all these other people, these people who are saying that I'm mad, the play style of the CPDM will not allow them to even, they'll be obliged to fuse, or even then nobody needs them. Nobody even needs them. The country will be driving, because at that time, the country will be moving forward, and they will have no business.
Thank you, Doctor. Where do we go from here? Your reaction briefly, way forward?
The way forward is one, release Sissoko Ayoktabi and all Anglophone detained. Number two, pardon all Amazonian leaders abroad. All the Sandinista leaders
as
abroad.
amnesty.
As amnesty. Forgive them. All the Sandinistas, forgive them. You understand? Withdraw all soldiers from the Northwest and Southwest region. Pay indemnity in the form of compensation to all the burned houses in the Northwest and Southwest region.
There's a reconstruction committee.
Secondly, and again, we have a new constitution. We need a new constitution, not this a rigid one, not this flexible one that has been tampered anyhow. We need that. Secondly, we need a new electoral code in this country. Okay. It's only in Cameroon that you have two electoral institutions. You have the chairman and you have the director general. I have never heard it in the world. Only in Cameroon. We have two electoral.
Because we have advanced democracy.
I have not seen that type of thing. So we need ELECAM should be restructured. The Constitutional Council should be restructured. You see, there are things that we have to do for way forward in this country. But as long as this Humpty Donkey system of the CP, the way Dr. Nick is propagating here, in order to protect his business and what have you. Well, we Cameroonian will judge us outside. No problem. Yes. Cameroonian
briefly, way forward. Where do we go from here?
Yes.
Honestly speaking, I think that the way forward for the present Cameroon that is in a stalemate, is having plagued with multiple crises, is going to come from the CRM, and it will only be if Cameroonians start understanding that if you have a political party that everyone is bent on fighting that political party, is because it has something quite different to offer. The political parties that have been existing, especially the CPDM, has failed, and Dr. Nick rightly prophesied that it would die, and another political. Nothing. What he said, it is.
Are you going back to the old system of witchcraft? It is part of what he's saying.
No, it's not the old system of witchcraft. What he said is kind of a sophism, because you see, there is no way a snake can metamorphose into a butterfly. It was metamorphosed into a snake, like I told you. The seed
with a different venom.
No, nothing. A viper metamorphoses into a viper. If it has to, it is still a viper and has the same quantity of venom, of poison. So like I told you, the CRM has proposed that there should be a dialogue on a neutral ground with the separatist leaders, and that the regime in place should be ready to ask for forgiveness, as well as the separatist leaders also have to ask for forgiveness on grounds of what? The damages that have been caused, human beings that have died and all the like. So both camps have wronged the nation. The separatists are wrong. The regime in place is wrong. The opposition has not done the job well, because
they are wrong.
They are not.
They have been unable. Let me tell you the kind of opposition I want to side here. The opposition has been unable to unite as a result of the CPDM created opposition. And then
so what stopped SDF, MRC, the key one that you identify yourself to be the key to unite? Is it still the CPDM pushing it?
You wouldn't tell me what stopped the CPDM, the SDF from uniting, because the SDF and the CPDM have at least stood on at a table of dialogue to discuss on the electoral system, and I'm sure there are other things that were under the papers that they were supposed to open and talk on it. So they have not failed.
Thank you. Where do we go from where? Yeah, briefly, way forward.
Yes, I choose to remain on the topic. I don't want to go out of the topic because we are talking about opposition. I want to think that the way forward should be the different political opposition associations should drop their egos. They should find a common ground to come together, talk with the same voice, have a common agenda, and that agenda should be to oust the CPDM Mafia Senior Association that has plunged Cameroon into various chaos. Because, like I am speaking, we are talking about opposition today, but we know that the problems of Cameroon as they stand now fall squarely all onto the shoulders of the CPDM and the regime in place. They have failed, they will be failing, and they will continue to fail while in power if the opposition does not find a common ground to speak the same voice.
Thank you very much. We are seemingly out of time. Good afternoon, Mr. JAVIS. A nice program. This was a good afternoon, Mr. JAVIS. Everyone in the studio, CPDM militants are all evil eating on the table, and each of the CPDM militants have his or her own evil role to play. Papa Oyoyo is writing there from Douala. This one says, I differ with Dr. Nick a bit as far as this is concerned. The CPDM party has done much harm to this nation. This one reads, good afternoon to everyone. The discussion of this discussion of which party is doing what is not doing is not important. Please, people are dying and government are dying. People need to know the move and stop debates that don't solve the conflict. Actions we need, and be from northwest region of Cameroon. This program will be rebroadcast today at exactly 10:30 p.m. on Monday at 9:30 p.m. every Sunday at exactly 12 to 1:30 p.m. We'll have a live session. If you want to be a panelist on our program, contact the numbers on your screen. You will receive you, and I'll leave you with this. No matter the matter, what matter is your matter. No matter the matter, what matter is your matter. And what should matter for you is that the truth is God. You can only kill the teller and not the truth. When you kill the teller, the truth remains to haunt you. That was my personal quote I developed in the university. Stay blessed. Bye-bye from Feng Gudjong Bange, Cameroon's economic capital, Douala.